Hello, YouTube and Dr. Rome. Today I will be reviewing chapters 22 and 23 of Larry Spears' Focus on Leadership. Um, so we'll just dive right in. Chapter 22 is written by D. Hawk. Here's a few pictures of him. He recently passed away in July 2022, but he created Visa, the international credit card company. Super successful company, and he kind of just talks about leadership and the chaotic age, mix chaos and order. And so we'll just dive right in. So on page 313, he's talking about when him and his colleagues were thinking of ways to run the company. They locked themselves in a hotel room, and they were fighting day and night. They couldn't agree on anything. And he says, we were in the old Newtonian mechanistic way of thinking. What do we want to do? How are we going to organize it? Who's going to be in charge of it? Finally, in utter frustration, someone muttered, I'm beginning to wonder if I even know what an organization really is. And through that questioning, they realize, wait, this thing that we're trying to create is going to be something completely different. And I think getting locked in that old way of thinking is something that we very commonly do. And he even mentions in an earlier sentence, talking about how outdated a lot of management is. It's on page 311, talking about how society is developing so fast, but we're going to manage that society with 17th century notions of organization and management. And it's definitely a call to realize, there's other ways to do this than what's just been used in the past centuries. Especially with society progressing, everything progresses except for leadership and management styles. Why is that? We need to be, as servant leaders, proactive and diligent in thinking of new ways to manage people and work with them. Next, my quote on page 316. He's talking about how much time you should spend managing each respective person within an organization. And he says 50% should be yourself, which was kind of an interesting take. But the one that I'm going to read is at the bottom. He says, the question always emerges, yes, but how do we manage superiors and peers? You don't have any power over them, and the answer is equally obvious. You can't. But can you influence them, motivate them, disturb them, excite them, persuade them, set an example, arouse them, forgive them? Well, of course you can. And so just talking about, he says that the least of our worries is managing subordinates. The most important is ourselves, and then second is superiors and peers. And I was wondering that same question before he wrote it. How are we supposed to manage somebody that's above us? But I think what he's saying is very true, that we do have abilities to influence, motivate, excite, persuade. We might not have the direct authority that can enact power over somebody, but we do have the skills and ideas inside of ourselves to influence those above us and those around us. So kind of that level of servant leader, they don't need to have authority to make change. And lastly, on page 317, kind of along with what I just said, a true leader neither needs nor uses power. A true leader neither needs nor uses power. It's kind of a controversial statement, that a leader doesn't need, or do they use it? I was talking with my friend Emily Matheson about me stepping into a management role and how should I go about letting the people around me know, look, I'm now in a higher position than I was before. I need respect. I don't necessarily need it, but it seems like it would be fitting with the position that you would respect the person above you. And she was kind of telling me that you don't even need to demand that. You don't need to do something large to show yourself worthy of like receiving and administering authority, you know? So to a level, maybe sometimes we don't need to enact power. Maybe it's situational, and depending on where we are, we just need to continue to be ourselves and just hold the title of leader. Maybe make the executive decisions that nobody wants to mess with, but at the end of the day, let the people lead. I don't know. Next chapter, 23, talking about public leadership. This was written by Scott W. Webster. It's really hard to find a picture of this guy. I don't think this is him, but that might be him. He was the assistant director for the Center of Public Leadership, and I was looking on their website, couldn't find him, and I was looking on a couple other websites because he was at the Pew Charitable Trust Teaching Fellow organization, and he's no longer listed there either. But he seems to like to study history and leadership in history. The chapter was a little bit hard to pull points out of. It was kind of slow. But what I got, I'll start with. On page 324, he says, public leaders would serve the public interest and not their own. Talking about George Washington and how he stepped out of his position of authority because he didn't want to repeat a monarchy in America. And so instead of boosting his ego and boosting his self to the authority in America, he chose to lower himself and just take a humble position of a normal person and serving the public interest without the public even knowing it. The public thought they wanted him as president, but they didn't realize that like the implications of that would lead to monarchy. So it's a good thing that he stepped down. And as servant leaders, like we don't need to demand power and authority. We can just humbly be ourselves, you know. So on page 328, he says, emphasis was everything. In a republic, public leaders serve ideas and ideals. In a democracy, public leaders more directly serve the people. So here he's just talking about kind of two different styles of leadership within government, and just saying how in each respective style, one serves more ideas and one is directly over people. And I think it kind of reflects to our American government of Democrats and Republicans. The Republicans really stick with just valuing constitutional rights and the ideas more, while the Democrats kind of seem to serve more directly what people around them are saying. And this is not necessarily true. It's a pretty blanket statement to say, but I think that's kind of what he's referring to. And so I just thought it was interesting how as leaders, like we can kind of fit into different categories, serving ideas or directly people. And it seems for the most part with what we do, we want to have a combination of both as servant leaders, to have a idea of probably more of what the Lord wants out of a situation, while also listening to what people around us are saying. And then lastly, on page 331, he says, servant leadership and public leadership probably pinch Americans. And he's talking about, he tells a story about a group of friends in ancient Rome lambasted one of their own for divorcing his wife. Was she not beautiful, they implored. Unnerved, the Roman removed his shoe and held it up, saying, is this not new? Is it not well made? Yet not one of you can tell me where it pinches me. So talking about how leadership pinches America. On the outside, like some people might say, oh, we have it great. You know, we have a free economy, capitalism, and leadership seems to be doing well. But under the surface, are the leaders really helping? Are they actually just hurting and pinching the society? And how do we avoid doing that as servant leaders? Do we make sure that we put on a front and look good on the outside, but on the inside, in the depths of our workplace, we're actually terrible people? So I thought it was all kind of interesting. First chapter was definitely a more enjoyable read for me. But I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.